Hi guys. So welcome to class. I thought I should share some of these slides that I have from a course that I taught a while ago. Um, so Creative Writing 101. Welcome to class. Let's um, let's dig in, shall we? So today I'm going to teach you a trick to really write fast and engaging stories. So let's get ready. So today's topic is exploring effective openings and how authors build suspense. So, you know that thing that makes you really get into a story and want to see how it goes? Yeah, the thing that makes you to keep reading. That's what we're talking about today. So, my objectives today are basically to structure your creative writing with an engaging opening and to structure your creative writing to build tension. So, for a start, I'd like you to think of the last story you read. What happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the plot? Because it's been said that a story is something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's basically how stories go. Um, okay, so while you're thinking about that, I will move forward and I'd like you to get a piece of paper or a notebook and and just do some of these small assignments as we go along. So for an activity, we're going to do something. The following diagram is called Free Tax Pyramid. I'm going to show you the diagram in a moment. It's a model that you can use for outlining the different points of a plot in a story. So match up what should happen at each point in a story with the correct point on the plot line. And here's what I mean. And I have borrowed this from the Brilliant Club, this diagram. So climax, rising, falling, resolution, exposition, but that's not how it works. The first point is exposition, and then there's the rising action, followed by the climax, falling action, and resolution. And they're not supposed to be like this. They're sort of scattered, and your job is to try and rearrange them in the way that they should be. So, what number do you think is overcoming the conflict in a story? Anyway, because you're not here to give me a response, I'm going to start from exposition. So, exposition number one, which is usually the beginning of a story, is where the characters and the setting are introduced. So that's the beginning of the story where we get into it. And the rising action is when the conflict is introduced. Now we realize what's going on in the story. Something is going wrong, and that's the rising action. Now the climax is the moment where you see the highest point of tension and suspense for the reader. This is the point where we begin to say, oh, what's going to happen next? And then falling action is when the conflict is being overcome. And then, of course, the resolution is when that story and everything that's happening inside it returns to normality. I hope that was clear. So let's take a look at an exposition. Example, how does the author hook the reader from the start? How does the author introduce the characters and the setting? Discuss this as a group and annotate the example below. So this is the example, because you're not here to give me a response back, but this is something fun for you to do with your friends, as you watch, or do on your own with that notebook that I mentioned earlier. So here it is. Read this and then do the thing that I've asked you to do. Determined, Amira battled sleep and drowsiness on her march up the mountain. The sword that hung by her side glinted like a jewel in the early morning sun. Nightfall retreated towards the horizon. Victorious in its daily battle, the sun steadily rose, its fingers stretching across the earth. Reaching the summit, Amira breathed in a sigh of admiration. She took in the sight below. The village and the houses in which her villagers slept, bathed in a pale, rosy light. Now, at this point, I'm sure you really want to know what's going on with this story. So let's take a look at an example, rising action. How does this author introduce a conflict, and how does the conflict get worse? So the peace in the village has shattered. Every night for the last month, the villager had gone missing. Chaos had taken over. Parents were sobbing, children were petrified, and even the animals were anxious. At first, no one knew the cause of these strange disappearances. Then, early one morning, the villagers noticed that the walls of a house had jet black scorch marks extending from one end to the other. A few days later, in the garden belonging to the next victim, the villagers found jagged claw marks. And finally, Amira caught sight of the cause of the disappearances: a dragon carrying away its latest victim in its powerful, bloody jaws. So at this point, you're beginning to understand the conflict, and it's getting worse. Um, so for the climax, which is the point I told you is the highest point of the conflict, you will see this example and then think about how the conflict comes to a peak and how does the author create a sense of suspense. Amira stopped in her tracks. The turrets of the castle ominously overshadowed the winding, twisting path that lay ahead. With a deep breath, and only the slightest feeling of dread growing in her stomach, she continued. Hours later, she had reached the heavy oak door. The golden knocker in the shape of a dragon's head seemed to be sneering at her, and once she pried it open, she crept inside the castle. Inside, the halls and corridors of the castle were bare apart from a few suits of armor and threadbare tapestries. Despite her best efforts, Amira's shoes creaked against the stone floor. It was scorching. What could be causing such heat in the middle of December? She turned the corner and caught sight of a dragon roasting a villager for dinner. She had her answer. What do you think you're doing in my castle? The dragon hissed. I've come to avenge the deaths of my people, Amira replied, trying to keep from shaking. So this is the climax. Now you're wondering what's going to happen to Amira. Is the dragon going to eat her? Those are the questions coming into your head in a moment. And this is a trick, really. So now, for the following action, read this example. How does the conflict get resolved? What helps the hero solve the problem? That's the next step. Once you've taken that action to the highest possible notch, then you find a way to resolve it. So, pain throbbed in Amira's head. Her bones felt stiff. Suddenly gaining consciousness, she realized that she had been knocked out. She was unsteady and shaky, but got to her feet and rummaged in her bag for a sandwich, which is, of course, something strange for someone to do at this very moment. So footsteps thundered in the corridor, coming closer, closer, and closer. Then they stopped. She heard the dragon taking a deep breath. What is that smell? It bellowed. Amira gulped. Fear paralyzed her. She couldn't speak. The dragon's jaw dropped. His teeth glinted like knives in the sun. Amira squeezed her eyes shut. She could feel his fiery breath against her face, his cavernous mouth just inches away. A swift snap of his jaws, he snatched a sandwich. That's delicious. He roared. Did you see that coming? Um, okay, so and finally, read the resolution. House order restored. A wave of relief washed over Amira. The dragon, supposed to be a dragon, chomped and chewed and licked his lips with his snake-like tongue. How can I get more of these delicious delicacies? He cried. Well, Mira explained, a plan starting to form in her mind. You can have an unlimited supply of peanut butter sandwiches, but on one condition: you let the village live in peace. It's a deal, exclaimed the dragon, already delirious at the thought of a lifetime supply of sandwiches. Did you see that coming? Okay. Um, well, so now I need you to reflect on what you've learned today and complete these sentences. I can introduce characters by writing in my book, and I can introduce a setting in my creative writing by, and I can build suspense for readers by. Um, Once you have the answers to those, um, to these um, questions, of course, you have yourself a beautiful, beautiful story. So good luck with your creative writing. I hope this has been helpful. I've got a few more of these slides and I'm going to keep sharing them with you. Well done. And if you've got any piece of writing to share, just comment and let's have a look at it together. If you follow these strategic steps that I've taught you, you will become a wonderful, wonderful writer in just a few short days even. So good luck and all the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.